Hey, good evening, everyone. We're just waiting for a few minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll get started right away. All right, I think we can get started. My name is Nelly Zayed. I'm the co-founder and director of Newton Education Services. I just want to make sure that our attendees can hear me. If anyone can just raise their virtual hand on Zoom or give us a thumbs up, I just want to make sure that you are all here. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so thank you all for being here tonight. We're here to talk about the LSE-Sawiris Scholarship for an Executive Masters in Cities from the London School of Economics. I am delighted to be among my fellow panelists here from the Sawiris Foundation for Social Development who are behind this scholarship. We have Nadia Al-Ashqar, who's the Senior Programs Officer from the Education and Scholarships sector at the foundation. We're also delighted to have Nermeen Abdallah, who's the Executive Masters of Science Program Manager at LSE Cities London School of Economics. And I have my colleagues here from Newton. We might have Mr. Ahmed Rida, who's an alumnus of the program and the scholarship, join us in a few minutes. So we will make sure to introduce him once he does. What we're doing tonight is we're gonna give you an overview about what the Sawiris Foundation does in terms of scholarships, and for this scholarship in particular. Nermeen is gonna talk to you about the program itself at LSE, the Masters of Science in Cities, or the Executive Masters of Science in Cities. We're gonna talk about the scholarship program, eligibility criteria, the timeline, and how the selection works, the conditions, terms and conditions of the scholarship, and then we'll be ready to open it up for questions and answers. This session is also live on the Newton Education Services Facebook page. And just so you know, don't worry if you don't see your mic or your camera. That's the way the webinar is set up. You can still ask us questions. There's a Q&A tab at the top or bottom of your screen where you can click there and type in any questions you have. Probably will be answered during the presentation, but of course, if they're not, we're gonna make sure we get to them as soon as we're done. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Nadia to talk to you about the Sawiris Foundation.
Hello, everyone. So before we get into the scholarship and what it is we're offering, we thought we'd give you a small brief about who we are and what we do as the foundation. So the foundation was launched in 2001 with an endowment from the Sawiris family, with the sole aim to reduce multidimensional poverty and empower agents of change. So in doing so, we have three technical sectors, one of which is economic empowerment that works on training for employment and microcredit programs, and the social empowerment sector that works on women empowerment and children without shelter, and the health initiatives that the foundation takes part in addition to the education and scholarship sector that I work in, that works on pre-primary education, basic education, higher education, and technical vocational education, in addition to the Sawiris Cultural Award. So the Sawiris Foundation is offering 2 scholarships for urban leaders that are working in the public sector or third sector in Egypt to obtain their executive masters in cities from LSE. The scholarship covers the tuition fees and the travel from Cairo to the UK, and the living costs in London, given that this is a blended program. So it's offering your living in London and your travel costs. Up to this date, we've only had 2 graduates, and the program is administered by Newton Education Services.
All right, thank you, Nadia. Nermeen will now talk to us about the actual program at LSE and what it involves.
Thank you. Hello, good evening, everyone. So the Executive Masters in Cities is a 18-month program that is based out of a research center at LSE called LSE-Cities. LSE Cities is like I said, research center that focuses a lot of its work and that research and policy work on matters of urban development and urban design. And the program is for qualified professionals who are looking to learn how they can better manage, govern, plan, design the cities that they are based in. So like I said, the program is for qualified professionals. You are expected to have 10 plus years of experience, but you will also, it is also a part-time degree, so you will be studying while you're working. There are 5 one-week residential sessions. I think that just to clarify that a little bit more, so there are 5 modules in the program that last over 12 months. And within those modules, there is the 5 one-week residential sessions, and during which you are expected to come to London and engage with live teaching. So you will have live teaching face-to-face with your faculty and LSE academics, as well as your classmates. And when you go off to explore and learn more about the program, you will see that the program is offered in hybrid flex. So you will have colleagues that will also be joining teaching online, but as a requirement of this particular scholarship, you are expected to be in person. And you will talk more about that in a bit. The program brings together experts from across the London School of Economics and its wider global network, working with charities, organizations, and city governments across the world to train the urban leaders of tomorrow. The program builds upon the center's extensive interdisciplinary urban research program, social science research methods, and a wide range of public and private sector advisory activities. Next slide. So what are the advantages of the program? So like I said, that you will be able to tap into the university's global network, as well as LSE Cities and the Executive Masters in Cities programs networks. You'll be working with organizations such as C40, the World Bank, who contribute and sort of are partners in the program. The program builds upon the center's extensive interdisciplinary research program, as I mentioned, and you'll also be able to engage with colleagues from across the world who will be alongside you as classmates in the program as well. So like I said previously, the program consists of 5 short-term sessions, which we call modules, within which there are 5 teaching weeks that are live, which you are expected to attend, as well as a 6-month individual consultancy program. So that the 5 modules take place over 12 months, and that includes assessment and preparatory work. And then there's a 6-month consultancy project that begins in September and concludes in February. So term dates we're talking here are a 2023 entry. The teaching goes through to September 2024, which is when your urban consultancy project begins, which will ultimately be then due in February 2025.
All right, thank you so much, Nadia and Nermeen. We're now going to talk about the eligibility criteria for the scholarship. So in order for you to apply to the scholarship and to be eligible, you need to be an Egyptian national with a good first degree, which means you should have already earned your bachelor's degree with good standing. We also are looking for proof of English proficiency via either a TOEFL or an IELTS score that should be valid. So the exam date should be within 2 years of the start of the program at LSE. And there are minimum scores that are required for English proficiency. So it's 100 for the TOEFL, the internet-based TOEFL, or 7 for the IELTS, with minimum scores required on each section of the test. In terms of professional background, the program requires a minimum of 10 years of professional experience in an urban-related field, like as Nermeen mentioned earlier. And the scholarship also requires that you would be now working for either the public sector in Egypt, the government, or a public sector organization, or a third sector organization, which means either a charity, a non-for-profit, or an NGO that is Egyptian, that you would be working for. Your 10 years do not have to be all in that current position or institution that you're a part of, but you should currently be working in either the public sector or an NGO in Egypt. In terms of the requirements, the required documents for the scholarship, we are looking for a completed application form, which also includes a personal statement. The link to the application form, we will make sure to type in here for you in the chat box, and then we will also email it to you, and it's also on all of our posts regarding the program on our social media pages. But it's an online application form, so anything that is required you will upload there, including a copy of your valid passport ID page, your national ID, an updated resume or CV, your undergraduate and graduate transcripts, your TOEFL and IELTS score, 2 letters of recommendation, and a photo. You will see on the next slide that we talk about required documents for the LSE application, because we want to be very clear that for this program, you will need to fill out 2 separate applications, one for the scholarship and one for the program. So there are 2 different processes here, and even though you may find overlapping required documents, you will still need to do them separately for each application. I'll ask Nermeen to talk to you about the required documents for the LSE application.
Yes, so like Nelly said, there are 2 different applications that you need to complete. Of course, to be eligible for the scholarship, you also need to be accepted into the program. And one is not sort of reflective of the other process. They're completely separate, even though there will be an overlap in the documents and the types of things that we're asking you to provide. So for the LSE application specifically, you need to provide a CV or a resume, a statement of purpose. The statement should describe your academic interest in, understanding of, and suitability for the program, as well as your purpose and objectives in applying for the scholarship in the program. There are some technical requirements for the statement. So it should be typed. It should be no longer than 2 sides of A4 paper. And I realize now that I'm not quite sure what type of paper size you use in Egypt, but regardless of that, we're expecting it to be no longer than 1,000 to 1,500 words. We also require copies of your transcripts and degree certificates listed on your CV. And also, to be clear here, you will, if you are accepted onto the program, you will receive an offer, and the offer will have all offers will have the requirement of providing proof of your degrees. So we recommend that you only list, both on your CV and on the application, really significant degrees. So if you have a 1-day workshop or seminar or very short course that you might have, like just a piece of paper certificate rather than an official sort of transcript or a official signed certificate, we suggest that you omit those and only list your degree certificates and any sort of significant certifications that are relevant to the application, because you will have to provide proof of that, which it creates more work for you. We also require 2 references. So you will need to nominate 2 referees as part of your application. You should not upload the reference letters yourself. All you need to do is nominate your referees and list their details. LSE admissions will then reach out to them and ask them to complete a form. And they will, once those forms have been received from your referees, it is at that point that your application is considered complete and is then passed on to the department to review for consideration for the program. There is an £80 application processing fee that you will need to pay for the application to be considered as part of the LSE system, unfortunately, but there is a way to get that waived. And in a minute, I will send through a link with a form that you can complete in order to get that processing fee waived. It's not a guarantee. Completing the form doesn't guarantee the fee being waived, but I would recommend that you do look into it. I also want to mention two things in terms of terminology for the application process. So earlier I said that you will need to provide proof of your degree certificates upon getting an offer. So there are two terms to be aware of, something called a conditional offer and an unconditional offer. So a conditional offer is that you've been offered a place onto the program, but there are sets of conditions that you will need to meet in order to fully enroll. The conditions in that typically are related to your English language score, but the unconditional offer is an offer that you have no conditions on, but you will still need to provide the proof of your degree certificate, regardless of whether you receive an unconditional or conditional offer. So I know that's caused some confusion previously, so I just wanted to make sure that that is clear. Yeah, so I think that's it in terms of the LSE application.
Thank you, Nermeen. So I know we're giving you a lot of information, so it might be a bit confusing, and that's why we are happy to receive your questions at the end of this. But also we thought a timeline would help you sort of visualize all the different milestones for this program. So again, there are two separate applications. The scholarship application is due on April 7th. So just before midnight, April 7th, Cairo time, you will need to have submitted your scholarship application. And then a little later, like a couple of weeks later or a little or less, April 20th, you will need to submit the program application. So even if, on the program website, you see that, you are able to submit the application at any point, perhaps for this scholarship, you will need to abide by the April 20th deadline for the university application. That's very important in order for the rest of the timeline to play out following the dates we state here. So once you fill out both applications before these two deadlines, we will be going through them at Newton, and then we will come up with a short list of applicants who are eligible for the program, and we will have interviews scheduled for these applicants by an interviewing committee sometime in early May. And then following that, we will have the announcement of the scholars in June. The program then begins in October 2023 and ends in February 2025 with a lot of, or all of what Nermeen talked about happening in between, including in the 5 modules when you travel to London. And maybe Nermeen wants to add something else here, but basically these are the two, beginning and end dates of the program, but then there's just a lot that goes on in between, some remotely while you're still here in Egypt the whole time, still at your job. You don't need to leave your job, but you will need to travel 5 times during that period to London for the specific modules you'll be sitting for there. Nermeen, did you want to add something here about the dates for the program?
Yes, just to reiterate that the first instance that you will be required to be in London will be October, at the very start of October 2023. And you can see those dates on our website. I sent through the link on the chat, which is then usually followed by the assessment period. So that's the basic structure of each module, is that we release preparatory work for the live teaching, which you can engage with in your home countries, and sort of in whatever way you like. It's completely asynchronous. And then we have the learning, we have the teaching week that takes place 5 times a year, where you are required to be in London, and that's followed by the assessment period. So it is an 18-month program. So you might be wondering, how are those 18 months divided and split up? But in terms of structure, that's essentially how it works. So from October through to July of the following year is when the bulk of your work will be done. There is a bit of a gap between the end of your last assessment for the 5th module and the beginning of your consultancy project, but then that'll take you through to February 2025. I also see, just quickly, I see in the Q&A box a question kind of related to that. So if that's all right, I'll just address it. So
Sure.
Someone has asked if the program contains any practical or in-person parts. So as I said, the in-person element will be the live teaching weeks where you need to attend in person. Thank you.
So in terms of the terms and conditions of the scholarship, there are 2 pretty basic terms and conditions for any scholarship. So 1 is to complete your studies on time, and 2 is for you to come back and work in Egypt for 2 years after graduation. Now, this is pretty standard for all of our scholarships. For any master's degree, you're required to come back and work in Egypt for 2 years. And if not, then we'd have to we'd have a payment plan with you, and you'd have to return back the money. So that's across all of our scholarships, and that's a policy that we have within the foundation. In addition, since we're talking about terms and conditions, I would just like to also reiterate what Nermeen had said before, that for the students wanting to apply for the scholarship, they must attend the in-person sessions that are going to be happening in London, and they cannot take it as fully like distance learning or any. That's it. So about the profiles of our previous scholars, we were hoping that some of them would be able to attend today, but unfortunately it wasn't possible. So one of them is Salma, and she's currently a mobility program officer at the UN Habitat. And prior to working there, she received her Master of City Planning in the University of California, Berkeley, and her Bachelor's of Arts in McGill. Next, yeah. And Ahmed also was one of our previous scholars, and he's the Associate Minister of Industrial Affairs at the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Egypt. And prior to joining the ministry, Ahmed was the advisor to the Ministry of Investment and International Cooperation in Egypt. And he used to manage work with a lot of institutions like the World Bank and EBRD, etc.
All right, thank you, Nadia. I think we're now ready to take your questions. I see that there are already a couple from Abdullah. So the first one is, wanted to ask, please, if okay, so we already did this. Nermeen answered that there are the 5 modules that you do in person in London. I graduated from a German hotel school, 3 years, German diploma. Am I able to apply to this scholarship program? So I'm not really, maybe Nermeen would know or would have the right questions to ask Abdullah about his program.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think there's 2 things to establish that I'm a little bit unclear about. Maybe you could provide some further information. The priority for the program is the 10 years plus of professional experience, and that's 10 years from entry into the program, not at the point of application. So 10 years by October 2023. So that's the priority. So if you have that, then that's something that will be weighed more heavily than the degree, not to say that that isn't important. That is, of course, an important component of the application process and will be considered. The other thing to stress here is that we are looking for people who work specifically in urban fields. So that are either working in city government, so that are working with charities, that are working organizations within Egypt that are really looking at things like transport, housing, and development. So those are the things that we're looking for and what this program is for. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Nermeen. Any other questions and answers for our panelists? Thank you, Abdullah. Anyone with more questions, anything about the application process, the required documents, the program itself?
I realized that I forgot to mention one thing. That's
yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Apologies. So mentioned that as part of the scholarship application that you do also need to provide English. There's an English language requirement. I realized that I didn't say that the LSE program application also has an English language requirement. At the time of applying, if you do not have a score, a test score, or if you are planning on taking the test a little bit later on, that's fine. It's only upon the offer, should you be given an offer, that it's at that point that you will need to provide that detail, and that's something that would be a conditional offer. So just to say that that is also something that we look for in addition to everything else we mentioned, but that if you aren't able to take the test, you don't have a current and valid score by April 20th, it's fine, but you will be required to take it before you enroll onto the program.
Great, thank you. Any more questions? This is your chance now to ask Nermeen everything about the program, Nadia everything about the scholarship.
I mean, I'm happy to talk a little bit about the experience of what it's like to be in the room. Yeah, in the absence of any alumni. Yeah. So like we said, that we do expect you to be in person. The classes take place on the LSE campus in the building that the LSE-Sawiris is based in a really lovely venue. It's set up seminar style. I think on the first slide there was a really lovely picture of participants in the room. And so we also have attendees that are participating on the program remotely. So we have the technological capacity to have both online and in-person participants. So it's a really lovely experience where you get to engage with people both in the room and then also online. We just had a teaching week last week where we had the highest number of people in the room. We usually about 30% of our participants opt to stay online, but we had about 17 participants in person, which is really lovely, a bit cozy, but very lovely. And so the way that the teaching week happens is that we start off teaching at 11 every day, and we run through to 3 p.m. And this is to ensure that people who are in different time zones across the world are able to participate. So it isn't too late or early an hour for them. And then in addition to the core teaching that takes place from 11 to 3, Monday to Friday, there are also some social activities that we organize. There are walking tours. So last week, one of our professors took the group around the King's Cross area, which is an area that's been recently developed. It was a 20-year project. I think it's still ongoing, massive development project in London. And so each week that you are in London, there will be at least one walking tour that will take you through an area of London, so you'll have the opportunity to see the city as well as attending classes. What else can I tell you? And then we have sort of dinners, and there's lots of FaceTime with your faculty and with your classmates as well. So it's a great networking opportunity in addition to learning and undertaking a master's in science.
Thank you, Nermeen. Yes, it is really an amazing program, and I think the fact that there's a requirement to attend classes in London over a period of time makes it a richer experience. So I want to ask, maybe I should ask or we should ask the participants if you think you will be applying to the program. Do you think what we said here tonight encourages you to apply to the program? Maybe you can raise your hand if you think you will be applying. Let's see. Okay, good. So I saw Sally raise her hand. I'm not sure if anyone else, if we scared them all away. But we hope that all of you apply and that you will hopefully get accepted and benefit from this very unique program. Any other questions? Of course, we can also, I think we've also posted our contact information or links to it, so you can also email us questions after the session, obviously. But I'm looking at Abdullah's question. Okay, so it looks like Abdullah graduated recently. Yeah, go ahead, Nadia.
Abdullah, I was gonna say I would recommend look at the foundation's website. We do offer many scholarships and they're very dear to our hearts at the foundation, and we offer quite a couple for undergraduate. I don't really know, we don't really have anything in marketing, to be honest, for someone that's graduated previously in 2021, but I do recommend look at the website and see if anything, if you're interested in the arts. We do have an undergraduate degree out of Egypt in the arts. I would recommend looking at our website, and regardless, our contact information is also on our website, so you can always drop us an email if you have any questions.
Yeah, I would say the same for us too, Abdullah. If you want to reach out, we can also help you find other scholarship programs that suit your goals. Any other questions? All right, we either did a really good job or we scared them all away. Sorry, I'm unable to tell. Okay, Sarah, we will resend the contacts. I think we're gonna email you the contact information and all the links that we talked about tonight, and the recording of this session as well. So don't worry, you will get everything. And thank you all. I want to thank my fellow panelists. Thank you for your time and for all the valuable information. And I also want to thank everyone who was here tonight. Please don't hesitate to contact us. The deadline is still more than a month away for the scholarship, so you still have some time. Mahmoud, I would also advise you to email us, and at info@Newton, we can help you with that. I'm gonna type in the email address here for you, but it's also available at all these links we sent, and that the links we will also send you by email. So with that, I think we are done with our information session. Please continue to follow our social media pages with more information about the program, and we'd be happy to answer all your questions. And thank you all again. Have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.